I don't know, I'm trying to think of, like, more useful things for Dungeons and Dragons. Try and find people that are, like, open-minded. There's nothing more frustrating than getting into a D&D party with people that are, like, actively antagonistic towards you. We once had kind of... we had a run with kind of, like, your perfect MMO trinity. Like, a tank, a rogue... tank, rogue, cleric... I guess I was a druid, a sorcerer. Actually, did we have a fighter? We might not have had a fighter now that I'm thinking about it. Whatever. But it was more or less like a perfectly aligned party. And then the rogue said, by the way, like, I'm just gonna be hiding the whole time. And I was just like, oh. And he did. He didn't, I'm not actually sure if we ever got to saw his character. Because he never came back after the first session, because he's like, this is kind of boring. And it's like, no shit, Sherlock. Of course it's boring. You didn't play. It's like showing up to Gary's mod and just leaving everything on spectator mode. Yep. Yeah, I kind of miss my, like, Grenadier build. It was awesome. Alright, let's hope he gets... No, they're all jewelry. Oh, that's not what I was looking for. Alright, well, that's fine. Okay. But yeah, he was... Honestly, he was always kind of a dick about things. So I wasn't, like, that bothered by him not being around. But every once in a while, he'd, like, kind of come back and be like, I want to play D&D again. And then do the exact same thing and be like, man... I forgot how boring this game was. Like, it wasn't like a single-time thing. I think that was the most frustrating part about that, which is why this whole, like, train about this guy is being brought up here. Is because, like, we would see... He would come over for D&D. So he was, like, a really good friend of, like, a couple of the guys that we play D&D with. And so sometimes he'd tag along and, you know, we just kind of, like, scale up his character and maybe give him some items or whatever, and everybody would be like, hey, it's so-and-so, and then we'd all remember that he never actually interacted with us. So none of our characters would reasonably remember him. And then he'd just be kind of snitty about it, and it's just like, alright. He was also one of those guys that went, he had the ability to get into MIT. I don't know why, he didn't go to MIT. He just had the ability to go there. I think he went to some other college instead, which is totally fine. Ow. You know, not everybody that gets into MIT should go to MIT. My brother's at MIT now. And, you know, absolutely is like, you know, this is not a school for everybody. It's like super hard on everybody's mental health and so on and so forth. But this guy would always lord it over people. You know, how smart he is and stuff like that. And, oh, God. I hate people like that. The, like, super holier-than-thou, despite all evidence to the, well, I mean, I guess he had plenty of evidence to back it up. I don't think he ever quite liked my brother, though, because my brother, I have, like, okay, I have this, like, kind of weird thing about, like, school and whatnot. I never really liked it because bad experiences and so on and so forth. But my brother absolutely, like, loved school, and he always tried really hard on it. And how the hell... What was that? Ah, shit. Okay. Well, that hurt really bad. But I'd always, like, score better than my brother whenever we were, like, tested on the same thing. So sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I could have gotten into MIT, too. But then I realized I'm playing video games for a living, so what do I care? Anyway, but yeah, so my brother literally was, like, top of his class in, like, quite a lot of things. And would have been the valedictorian if he had cared. I think also, like, maybe one of the teachers had screwed him over or something like that. It was stupid. My school also had, like, really stiff competition. But, so my brother, being this, like, wicked smart guy that he is, always bugged the rogue. Because the rogue guy always liked to throw his weight around and Admittedly, he mostly only hung out with smart people, so it kind of made it hard for him to throw his intelligence around in the same way. But my brother especially, like, had no interest in any of his nonsense. And that was always kind of fun to watch. Let's see. The summer sale will be soon. One asked, buy Regalia or Dead Cells? Regalia, absolutely. Dead Cells is very much incomplete. I enjoy it, but it needs a lot more work before it's quote-unquote done. And Regalia is a completed product that is really good. Generally, always buy the game that's out of early access first. There are some damn good early access games, like, what's a great example here? Well, RimWorld. RimWorld is amazing. Factorio, also amazing. Dead Cells is pretty good, but ultimately, you're gonna have to wait quite a while before you actually get the, like, completed, before you get the, like, completed product. And it's rough. Anyone who has to tell people that he's super smart generally isn't at all. Well, like, here's the thing. He was super smart. Like, at this point, he's designing, some, like, kind of impressive tech. And, like, I recognize that the guy from the story was actually a fairly intelligent person. It was just always really funny to watch him get completely shut down by everybody else who were generally smarter than him. I'm realizing I don't like Death Orb that much anymore. It doesn't do as much damage, so it can't just carry a room. So you have to combo it with things. But surprisingly, without, like, being able to arc it, it's not as useful. I actually like my Grenadier build. Okay, how do we get back up? Oh, it's over there. I think we got everything. Okay, let's just go back and let's go up and we'll figure it out. Yeah, what else was there? There's another thing, I guess, from Dungeons and Dragons. It's called murder hoboing. It's a super common, like, playstyle for Dungeons and Dragons, which is like everybody gets together and they just want to treat it like an MMO. They don't care about the quest, they don't care about the lore. All they want to do is just fight. And there's nothing wrong with that. But nothing is more frustrating than going into a well-crafted D&D campaign and realizing the rest of the party is murder hobos. Who have, like, no business being in the campaign. I've only ever... Okay, I've had to deal with that twice. Sort of. Shell and myself tried to do D&D together, and she's grabbing her microphone. Ow, 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 ow.
Man, have I got the story to tell. If you allow me to.
Sure. At least you have a microphone now. I'm just gonna have to remember to actually use it for this.
Oh, just 1 minute. I can stop the recording of the next sort of thing I'm doing for Dungeons and Dragons. Isn't it looking cool so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in any case, yeah, so my first D&D campaign was actually with Carl and some of his floor mates.
Hi, I'm Carl, if you didn't know.
Oh, sorry. Back on his sort of, like, dorm floor?
My frat.
College.
My frat.
I suppose
it was a frat.
I suppose
let's be honest
a
here.
lot of the guys there acted as though they would be in a frat. So we started up a new campaign, and what was nice was one of the new girls that we had met recently that had arrived on the floor was going to DM, so it wasn't like it. I mean, no offense, guys, but it wasn't like it was, you know, we were just completely surrounded by guys. I suppose she and I were the only participants that were female in this, but it was nice to know that at least the DM was a girl, because all of the guys, so I think one was just like a barbarian. Another guy, I think maybe they were a fighter or something, and you were a druid.
It was a party of...
And you were a Warforged druid, which I thought was hilarious.
Warforged druids are awesome. They don't make any sense, but they're awesome.
And since it was my first campaign, I just started off with an elf ranger, and my dire badger was called Lord Brocktree. kudos to any of you that know the reference. But in any case, so we start off with the campaign, and the first thing that happens, we come across a town, and the guys decide to, you know, take a peek into some building, only to find that there's potentially a cult with a giant monster and stuff. And supposedly we weren't supposed to find this until much later, but they were being overly nosy and didn't actually want to partake in any of the quests that the people had given us. So it was something that was supposed to occur much later on, but they sort of tripped everything. And the DM said later that the whole town would have killed us had my character not apologized for the group and interjected with diplomacy. So it was like, whoa, you know, okay. And they were rearing and ready to go to fight against an entire town and their monster. And it's just like, well, no, guys, we're gonna die here. You know, let's try to make peace and ask why they have this monster, and you know what their intentions are, and if we can somehow redeem ourselves in their eyes. Because yeah, that worked. But then wasn't there this intricate sort of like labyrinth ghost mansion?
It wasn't even a ghost mansion, it was a house inside of a cave, which was super confusing to begin with.
But there were ghosts, and I of course wanted to approach some of them because they weren't hostile ghosts. And some of them actually seemed like they wanted to tell you a story or wanted to lead you to other rooms to potentially explain why they were there, maybe how to end their current existence in limbo. And guess what the guys do?
They try and murder the ghosts.
Yes, yeah, they would just slash at the ghosts. Even after I tried striking up a conversation with them, and the ghosts seemed like they were receptive, it's just like...
I mean, to some degree, one of the other things you have to remember when you're, like, getting into Dungeons and Dragons and, like, picking a campaign to play and stuff like that, is you very much have to, like, you have to make sure that your DM is able to adapt to. That DM, she was a nice person, and I enjoyed being around her, but she was not very good at adapting the campaign.
It must have been really frustrating when all the characters that you've crafted to help lead everyone along get annihilated.
I mean, it is, but, I mean, the phrase "kill your darling" is especially important when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
I know, but they were just, but the awesome thing was, and guys will love this, the awesome thing was, we had actually acquired, what was it, the hand and the eye of some kind of ancient god beings.
We're only level 5 characters. We absolutely should not have had them, but...
Yeah, but I think she was trying to work them into the story. So I had acquired the eye, and another guy had acquired the hand, and I was reluctant to use mine. A, because it has to be magically infused with your body, and, I mean, you don't really know what they're going to do to you. And also, I didn't like the fact that I'd have to take out one of my own eyes for it.
Yeah.
So at one point, the one guy's like, you know, I want the eye for myself, because we had encountered some old sage-like witch, and she was going to offer to, you know, put the items on us. So... this other guy in the group decides to take the eye, and he rolled a 1, right?
Yeah, and this is like...
his first attempt to use it.
Yeah, you have to succeed 3 times or something to get it in, like, in you, otherwise, you die.
Oh, really? So he died without even having it put in? I thought it was his first time attempting to use it, that he perished.
No, the act of, like, getting it surgically put in or whatever... just straight up led to his death. It was not great. And that was kind of the last point we did with that campaign.
Well,
I think they kept going.
No, it wasn't. There was more. So he had actually crafted a bard character that was carrying around the corpse of his dead mother in a coffin.
I do not remember
Yes,
this.
Yes. That was totally what your friend did.
I must have totally blanked.
Yeah, so he created a bard that carried the coffin of his dead mother around. So then the other guy, the barbarian, he decided to have the hand placed on him, and it was successfully placed on his hand. But upon first use, I think he also failed, or got such a ridiculously low roll that it summoned some kind of fell beast from the beyond that devoured him. And it was just like, okay. And after that point, the campaign was pretty much forfeit.
I think they kept playing without us. We checked out because
I think we checked out because I felt like
we had midterms, but also we weren't doing shit.
Well, everything that I would attempt to do would be unraveled by them.
Yeah. It was a party of...
And you would...
I was a Swiss Army knife.
You would just turn into various animals and disappear, as far as I remember.
I would
and
solve
you never
puzzles.
Talked.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to let you talk because...
No, but I really don't remember your character's personality. It was just like,
I don't think I was doing
role
role-playing for that. I was definitely there more for, like, puzzles and, like, getting around obstacles and stuff. So, I mean, I'm not much better than a murder hobo sometimes. But, like, I don't know. You kind of got to know what you're getting into. Because a party of murder hobos is, like, totally fine. As long as you got a DM that can kind of work with it. I had another DM, a killer DM. Somebody had brought this up in chat. A killer DM is a DM that gives you, like, no leeway for anything.
You had to give leeway to the guys the other night for failing their roles, jumping across.
Well, I mean, normally you're just supposed to be able to jump across that period. You don't actually have to roll the check. Yeah, sometimes you need the murder hobo. Also true. But we had, as part of this campaign, God, I think we had like 10 of us playing. So, like, it was already kind of this, like, ridiculously, like, overstacked thing. But I think we were up against goblins, and I was playing a rogue. I almost never play rogue. But I was a dual-wielding, like, dagger-wielding halfling rogue or something like that. And I ended up doing 40 damage to a goblin. Just regular goblin. And didn't kill it. It and its other goblin companions killed half the party. On session 2, I think. It was bad.
They weren't scaled properly?
Nope. The DM was just like, I'm going to make this ridiculously hard for some reason. And then, almost immediately later... Oh, thank God. Almost immediately later, me being the only survivor, I make it back to town. And apparently, the goblin's leader became aware of us killing all these goblins or something like that. Yeah, the 40 damage was over, like, 2 or 3 attacks, too. Like, this was not exactly, this is not, like, over multiple hits where they could have healed. This was, like, me literally just critting them, twice in one round or something insane like that. But so... The entire party is dead except for me, and what happens is the DM is like, okay, you're, you know, trying to recruit some new people, and assassins show up and start attacking you, and so like, I rolled a crit 20 on my hide check to like hide and run away and stuff like that, and apparently that was not enough to hide and run away from like around the corner from these assassins, so they shot me with a crossbow bolt that did like 20, 30 some odd damage. We were like higher than level 1, and I had like a rather high constitution. But it was just, that was like the worst. That was, honest to goodness, like the worst D&D campaign I've ever been in. And eventually I was just like, I'm not playing anymore. And everybody's like, but you're the competent one. And I'm like, yeah, well, good luck. And then it fell apart like immediately afterwards. But like, these are like kind of weird cautionary tales. Generally it's not nearly this bad. You just got to make sure to like, well, I guess the easiest way to do it is, be honest. There's a thing called a session 0. Session 0 is really important if and when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Okay. Session 0 is incredibly important if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, because it gives everybody an kind of the opportunity to talk about what they want to do over that campaign. And I will admit, as a DM, I totally denied this entire party that chance. Session 0 for my campaign, Grave of Man, was me talking to Shell, because I can't keep that shit quiet, like hidden around her. So me talking to her about it, and me like conspiring with Ladybird, Because Ladybird, one, I was going to offer to Ladybird to let her play too, but she was not interested. But so that was session 0, and I threw Keith and Bird in completely out of the blue, and it worked out. Actually, it's worked out fairly well. But generally, especially if you're working with people that you don't generally work with on anything, like people you don't play with generally, or you've never played D&D with, the best thing you can do for having a good campaign is to have a session 0 to sit down and be like, yeah, okay, I want to have a character that does roleplay and stuff like that. And, this is what I do, and so on and so forth. And if that's a problem, then let me know. And I will, try and fix it in. When I tried playing D&D with my brother and Shell, we should have probably communicated this better. But we didn't do a session 0 either, so both Shell and myself made Lorekeeper type characters. Because I was going to have this, holy monk type paladin, not paladin character, a monk that, specifically liked, copying books down and reading books and stuff like that. And Shell's character is the exact same, so whenever I try and, do anything particularly bookish, it would just get attributed to her character, so I was eventually like, well, I guess I'm just going to be a luchador. And go from there, because at least that way I can actually have some personal identity. And then that didn't mean anything either, because freaking we were up against a lich who I think one-shot my character. That was annoying. Pick your battles, but pick your partners. I don't know. Pick your everything. Just be careful. But having that session 0 probably would have helped, because it would have been a good way to actually get the kind of basic look and feel down of what we're gonna be doing. Had a DM who enjoyed having the players PK each other all the time. Dude, that sucks. D&D is the worst PvP game I've ever played. I've had to PK players before. In fact, for at least a decent while in D&D, I specifically would play characters that, okay, it bugs me that I can't roll through those. I would specifically play through characters that were kind of invincible. Are you serious? That were kind of invincible, not so that the DM, couldn't touch me, but so that the other players couldn't. Had one campaign where my character did something to displease the rest of the party, and so this was the end of this group. I'd tried inviting a bunch of younger guys over, and my brother was getting a DM or something like that. And I think they just straight up executed my specific character, because I was I think I was a sorcerer or whatever, and they more or less just mobbed him and beat him up or something like that. And I was just like, oh, okay, I guess I'll re-roll a character never. And then after the fact, I was like, let's never invite them back again. And my brother was like, yep, down with that. I'm actually, let's get rid of the death orb. It's not really helping us here. I really, really like the extra damage on a poison target. Well, that's handy. Electric whip, not that useful. I mean, it could be useful, but still not that useful. But yeah, D&D generally kind of goes one of a couple of ways. Oh, geez, that's another good issue to point out. This is an issue with Dungeons and Dragons in general. Early on, melee characters are crazy powerful, and it's not exactly fair. Holy crap! I have not gotten a whole lot of stat points here. We'll probably be fine, but oof. Okay, do we want skills or do we want health? We could get rid of phaser too, but do we do a double fire grenade build? Sure, why not? Teleport isn't even that useful. What about yet more fire? Burn, baby, burn! Well, it procs that fire really hard. Shame that my sword doesn't do bonus damage against doesn't do bonus damage against burning enemies. But yeah, so if you're like a fighter at a really low level, you're pretty much just going to be the like hero of the story. It's part of the reason why Greg tends to do the most amount of damage in Grave of Man, because the other characters haven't had their time had enough time to like develop skills and spells and stuff like that. That you know, that can actually like handle enemies and so on and so forth. I like the cantrip system, but it still doesn't quite get it across as well as like it will later on. I don't know, hard to say. But yeah, I think I've told this story a couple of times, but I specifically, we were playing a D&D campaign where the guy, one of the guys, had a character that would intimidate people. I've told this story way too many times at this point, but I will reiterate it whenever it comes out. But every time he'd intimidate people, they'd have to make like a will save for half damage, and they'd take like effectively anywhere between 5 and 15 damage. And anytime you looked at him, it was an intimidate check. Anytime he spoke, intimidate check, so on and so forth. Which is super frustrating and annoying. Huh. I just realized I have ice. Can I? Yes, sorta. I can freeze this guy. Honestly, I'm not gonna say we're screwed. We're probably fine. But I don't have a shield. Well, we'll figure it out. Tentacles shouldn't be that big of a deal. Okay, tentacles cannot be frozen? Nope, tentacles can be frozen. Just bad luck there, I guess. We do so little damage. Usually I have at least one stat in the 7s or 8s by this point. Oh, we'll be okay. But yeah, so he would intimidate people constantly, and he actually knocked out the Scion. He knocked out the Scion, and almost killed the Sorcerer just by speaking. And, you know, metagame, because our characters specifically weren't allowed to know this. Metagame, we asked him to, like, cut it out, because it was kind of ruining the fun, because he was, he hadn't been there in a while, and so this was, like, his new character, because I think his previous character had died. I think usually he played, like, an ogre, but he was trying something else out, because I think the ogre had died. Problem was, I have not actually gotten hit yet, which is really funny. Oh, no, there it goes. I was going to say, it'd be really funny if I got the flawless kill on the guy right now. But yeah, so he was playing this character, and he was doing like serious amounts of harm. He wasn't hurting my ranger that much, because my ranger had slippers of spider climbing, and I was abusing the shit out of those. But eventually, it became super apparent that he was the only one not dying, and I think he had said something about, like, laugh maliciously, because he had forgotten my character was also not incapacitated. So, being like a elf ranger or whatever, I had a really high perception check, saw it, and then shot 4 arrows straight into him, killing him instantly because he had, like, no HP. That was one of the drawbacks to his stupid bullshit build. Man, I actually really miss those torches. But yeah, so I just killed him extra hard, and he was super pissed about it, and my brother was just like, look, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I guess that's kind of true of D&D. I like to browse the Dungeons and Dragons subreddit, because it's filled with all sorts of play stupid games, win stupid prizes type situations with DMs and players and stuff. I know Bird specifically got some pretty horrible stories. Oh, shit. Bird's got some specific stories about, more or less, his D&D campaigns devolving into, like, shitty fantasy porn. That is a nightmare of mine that luckily I would probably never have to worry about. But apparently people really like to do D&D campaigns as, like, that. And I'm just like, okay, this is weird. I will I have been very lucky that I've only ever had to deal with one person try that. My brother looked at the person and was like, no. Which was good. I don't even remember, but yes, I think so. For people that didn't hear, I believe the player had abducted a peasant woman to keep as his bride. And it was very much not an okay situation, and the whole party kind of let him in and out of game know that that shit would not fly. Oh, I forgot. We've got reduced damage from projectiles. That's why we don't take any damage from his... Yeah, I could just, like, hang out here. I guess I'll try and dodge him because it makes me feel cool, but still. There we go. Well, that's like 7 different flavors of Dungeons & Dragons. I've told mostly horror stories, but honestly it's a generally pretty positive experience, and I would highly encourage everybody to give it a try. If you get the chance. If you don't, that's okay too. I've also got a Discord, specifically for Dungeons & Dragons. And I think people have been gathering there for their own campaigns, which is pretty cool. I don't know. I like it when people from my fan base get together to play games. So I'm like, I'm a matchmaker. I'm that woman from Mulan. No, I'm not that woman from Mulan. Okay, my hands are starting to get bad. Let's switch.